Welcome everyone to this next wrestling officials training module, and we will be looking at the near fall situations as they occur on or over the out of bounds line. Thank you for Steve Long's illustration work once again, and it is the positioning of the head official and the assistant that are the important aspects in making correct calls, especially in the near fall situation. The NFHS rulebook has a number of rules that help us with these near fall situations on or over the out of bounds line. Rule 515.1 refers to two supporting points being inbounds, either two of one wrestler or one of each. Rule 515.2a discusses the points may or may not bear the wrestler's weight. Rule 515.2b discusses any part of the defensive wrestler's shoulder or scapula may be considered all the necessary supporting points to be either in or out of bounds, and 515.2c that the knees of the offensive wrestler must be inside the boundary line, either in contact or above the mat. In this illustration, you can see the offensive wrestler is clearly out of bounds, while the defensive wrestler, although his feet and hips are in bounds, his shoulders are down on the mat, and therefore he is considered out of bounds along with the offensive wrestler, and therefore near fall may not be counted. Remember, Rule 515.2b spells out this, that any part of the defensive wrestler's shoulder or scapula is considered all the points necessary. If we take a look at that first illustration from the opposite side, this may be the side the assistant referee is on. You still can see the feet and hips of the offensive wrestler, although appear in, by virtue of his shoulders or scapula touching the mat out of bounds. That defensive wrestler is an out-of-bounds wrestler, along with the offensive wrestler in blue. In this situation, the offensive wrestler in blue has his hip and thigh inside or on the boundary line. Near fall may be counted, as these are two supporting points for the offensive wrestler to be considered inbounds, and therefore the near fall or fall may be earned. In this illustration, we are trying to show that the right shoulder or scapula of the defensive wrestler in red is touching the mat on the out-of-bounds line. That scapula is all the points necessary for the defensive wrestler to be considered the inbounds wrestler, and therefore the offensive wrestler may earn near fall or may score the fall by virtue of that one shoulder or scapula touching the inbound circle. In this illustration, we're trying to show the right shoulder and scapula of the defensive wrestler is up off of the mat. Although it is over the line, it's not touching, and therefore there are no supporting points in bounds or on the line that wrestling may continue. These wrestlers are out of bounds, and the near fall count must stop. Wrestlers must be returned to the center of the mat. And it's important to point out in these illustrations, the referee's position is important, and his knowledge of the rules in these unique situations help him get this call correct. Here is an obvious situation of out of bounds, but sometimes the obvious eludes us. You can clearly see the only supporting point in bounds is the left foot of the defensive wrestler. These wrestlers are out of bounds, and there is no near fall count, and the wrestlers must be returned to the center of the mat. This is a unique situation and deserves a good discussion. Thank you to Steve for his work with his arrows in this illustration. He's trying to illustrate the high bridge taking place and the push and drive over the line in the high bridge. Here's the situation. The defensive wrestler was in near fall criteria inside the boundary line. He then pops up into a high bridge, and his shoulders and scapula are above the line, over the line, but not touching the line. The near fall count continues. As he continues to drive in this high bridge, he may slide over the line with his head, and his shoulders are still the important part to watch. If they stay above, his only supporting point out of bounds is his head. If the defensive wrestler drops down to the mat, if his shoulders and scapula are on the line, the count may continue. If his shoulders and scapula go beyond the line and are now touching the mat, wrestling may stop because the shoulders and scapula may be all the points necessary to be out of bounds. What would then become the important part to watch are the hip and thigh of the offensive wrestler, as we've already discussed in an earlier slide. If his hip and thigh are inside or on the circle, he is an inbounds wrestler, and wrestling may continue. Here are a few reminders concerning near fall. Start the near fall count when the defensive wrestler is held in criteria. Rolling into near fall does not earn anything. Stop the near fall count when the wrestler is out of criteria. Rolling out of criteria does not earn anything. Remember, it is being held in criteria that earns a near fall count. Hustle into position. That means lowering your level to see the near fall criteria is being met. If a takedown to near fall occurs, remember that is a silent count in your head. Don't wave your arm for a near fall, as that is poor mechanics, and it gives a coach a reason to go to the table to question. The assistant referee must be close over the top to see hands in the face, other violations, or blood from the defensive wrestler. And if you're bobbing your head from side to side around the head of the defensive wrestler to see the pinning area, you're too close to the action. Slide backward to give yourself a better view of both sides and scapula of the pinning area. And once again, as we always end, remember to pay it forward. To say thank you to those who helped train you. It's now your turn to help train younger officials as well. Thank you very much for participating. Have a good season.